The justices were divided on how much deference the courts should show to the president. Further proceedings were ordered in lower courts. Now, that has been a long anticipated legal decision over Donald Trump's tax returns and whether they could be examined or not. And with us for more analysis on that is France 24's Armin Georgian. Armin, what does this mean? We've been hearing about his tax returns for such a long time and the possible implications of that. What does this mean, concretely speaking?
Well, so there are really two separate tracks going on here. You've got the Congress request, which is for Trump to release his tax returns. As you said, he's been very reluctant to do that. Unlike previous presidents, he's chosen not to release his tax returns. So the US Congress wants him to do that. There's a separate request as well from the New York, from a district attorney in New York, and that is in relation to the Stormy Daniels case. So the allegation that hush money was paid to this former porn star. So these are two separate, but in a sense politically related cases. Now, what the Supreme Court has said is that the New York prosecutor can seek is allowed to seek these tax returns. By contrast, the Supreme Court says that Congress cannot get its hands on the tax returns. So it's a kind of a mixed result in a way. But James, the bottom line here is that actually it's very unlikely that the general public will get to know anything about this before the general election, because the whole process takes a long time. Both of these cases are now going back to lower courts, so there'll be arguments, counter arguments. Trump does have the right to push back and to fight back on this, even though he doesn't have complete immunity, because obviously no one is above the law in the US, but he does have methods to fight this and essentially kick the can further down the road. So perhaps the general public and the electorate may not know much more by the time they cast their ballots in the election.
So politically speaking, it might not be so damaging to Donald Trump.
Yeah, it might not be so damaging. His reactions are predictably playing the victim. There's been a whole flurry of tweets since the decision came in, when he alleges political prosecution and unfair treatment by the courts. Not really surprising there. Obviously, he's using this to try and rile up support from his base, as he usually does, against any sort of perceived persecution from established institutions in the US. So he's very much doing that. Again, is this tactic going to work, as we always ask, with other voters, with independent voters who can either swing Republican or Democratic in any given election year? That's really an open question. And does the issue of his tax returns really matter that much when there's this COVID crisis, which the US is very much convulsed by, not to mention, the campaign for racial and social justice at the moment. So arguably there are bigger issues now in this election year than his tax returns.
Maybe we couldn't have anticipated at the end of 2019 the extent to which it would go down the list of concerns with everything that's happened since, because this has been going for a while, of course. Thanks for that, Armin Georgian. Now, next, some new global figures